Good morning, students. Today I am going to teach you the first chapter of class 11 English, Hornbill book, chapter 1, The Portrait of a Lady. I will explain to you the summary. You just go through properly. The Portrait of a Lady by Khuswant Singh. The writer recalls his grandmother as short, healthy, and slightly bent. This chapter talks about the writer Khuswant Singh and his grandmother. There are two main characters in the story. Writer's grandmother is an old lady, short and wrinkled face. So the writer talks about the portrait of the picture, a picture hung on the wall of his grandfather also. So once I tell you the summary, you will understand in detail. The writer recalls his grandmother as short, healthy, and slightly bent. She is bent, not straight. We stand straight as young when we are young, but because she works extremely hard, she stooped. So she is bent, slightly bent. Her hair was silver in color and were scattered messily, not properly combed, scattered messily on her wrinkled face. Young men and girls have plain, face, uh, face that glazes, attracts others, but old people faces are wrinkled. So she is old lady, that's why she had wrinkled face. She used to walk around the whole house in white clothes. Since her husband died long ago, according to Hindu tradition, the lady whose husband died, they generally wear white clothes, plain clothes. She kept her one hand resting on her waist and the other hand was telling the beads of a rosary. She used to have a garland with small beads. Each beads are connected with thread. So according to Hindu Brahmin tradition, they keep, when they have no work, they sit in one place and always praise to God, mumbling within themselves, especially the old folk. They always pray to God to take them to his place, and they say that they should get salvation. Got it? Old people in Hindu tradition, in Hindu religious, old men and women, they carry a garland with beads connected with thread, and they keep on passing one thread to other with chants. Okay, so that's why she kept one hand resting on her waist and the other hand was telling the beads of her rosary. Rosary is that beads of small, rounded pebbles. It's not stone. These are found in these temples. They are already in shops where these Hindu traditional these things are found. The writer thinks of her as not very pretty but constantly beautiful all the time. The writer Khuswant Singh thinks of his grandmother as not very pretty but constantly beautiful all the time. He compares her grandmother's calm face with the writer's landscape. During their lengthy stay in the village, grandmother woke up woke him up. The grandmother woke the writer up from the bed in the early morning, plastered his wooden slate, organized his breakfast, and sent him to school. Plastered his wooden slate. There was a mud slate, made by the industries, where people use pencils these pencils and used to rub easily without the use of rubber. I even used that when I was a student. A small slate like a clipboard we have, so on it can be written with a pencil, white pencil, and then can be rubbed. These are taken to school. That wooden slate was generally taken to school for learning and writing for class work. So she used to organize his wooden slate, organized his breakfast, means prepared his breakfast and sent him to school. Grandmother used to do all this for her grandson. On their way, back to home, she used to give the stale chapatis to the street dogs. So she used to take him to school. After learning, the school was adjusted to the temple. The priest used to teach them, addition, multiplication, and religious chants and poems. And after the lessons are over, on their way back home, she used to give the stale chapatis to the street dogs. She used to still be there with him until the school was over. The priest used to teach. The priest was the teacher. Understood? And while coming back from school to home, she used to give the stale chapatis. She used to carry stale chapatis along with her. While coming back, she used to give to stray dogs. A turning point in their relationship arrived when they went to live in a city. Now, the writer used to go to the city school on a school bus and studied subjects like English, physics, mathematics, and many more subjects those his grandmother could not understand at all. Earlier, she used to teach him because there were religious chants, religious devotional songs, few calculations she knew and she taught him. But after his schooling, he joined his parents. He was staying with his grandmother. His parents used to stay in the city. While the parents called the grandmother and the writer, they were brought to the city, sent to the city, brought to the city, and in the city school, grandmother could not accompany her grandson because a bus used to come. There was a school bus, and the big school bus was to carry him. Okay, so she could no longer go with her grandson. So that's why she was not happy with the schooling. The writer used to go to the city school on a school bus and studied subjects like physics, English, mathematics, and many more subjects. Those his grandmother could not understand at all. His grandmother could no longer go to school with him to send him. She felt upset that there was no teaching about God and scriptures at the city school. Instead, he was given music lessons, but she said nothing. She did not like music at all. When the writer went to university, he got a separate room in his house. The common link of the relationship between the grandson and the grandmother was broken now. Grandmother, when the writer after completing his school, he went to study in a university. He got a separate room in his house because he had to study a lot. The grandmother could no longer be with him in the room. The common link of the relationship, the bond, the friendship between grandson and the grandmother was broken now. Grandmother rarely talked to anyone in the house now because there was almost a cut-off relationship. The relationship was cut short. She rarely talked to anyone in the house now. She spent plenty of her time sitting beside her spinning wheel. Spinning wheel and reciting prayers of God. She started feeding the sparrow birds in the birds, especially sparrows, in the afternoon. When the writer left for abroad for his further studies, his grandmother did not get disturbed at all. Rather, she saw him off at the airport. Seeing her grandmother at this old age, the writer was thinking that it might be his last meeting with his grandmother. First, he studied in a local school in the village. Then he went to the city and went to a city school and college. Then he went to when he started studying in the college. There was a relationship. There was a turning point of relationship when the writer was given a single room, not along with his grandmother. So that turning point of relationship was that time when grandmother and he was both were separated for his study concerns. Then she stopped talking to anybody and rarely she chanted and then always prayed and feed the sparrows. When the writer left for abroad for further studies, the grandmother did not get disturbed at all. Rather, she saw him off at the airport. Seeing her grandmother at this old age, the writer was thinking that it might be his last meeting with grandmother. But when he came back home after a duration of 5 years, his grandmother was there to welcome him back and saw her celebrate his return. The next morning, after the return of his grandson, she got ill. Although the doctor told that it was a slight fever and would go away very soon, still she could foresee that her time to leave this world was near. She did not want to waste her time talking to someone. She went to her bed praying and telling the beads of rosary till her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell down from her lifeless hand. To grieve her death, thousands of sparrows flew in and sat dispersed around her body, all around her body. All the sparrows flew away without making any noise when the dead body of the lady was carried away for the last ceremonial rites. To sum up, the portrait of a lady, the writer and his grandmother had a beautiful bond between them and loved each other a lot. The story tells us how a beautiful relationship can be between a grandson and his grandmother. Thank you.